What's up guys, it's Eric from Rare Candy and welcome back to another deck and battle here on PTCGO, and today we are revisiting an old card that, hasn't quite had a good time to shine in the metagame just yet, and that is going to be Tapu Koko GX. So, this is a card I've honestly loved ever since it came out. If anyone's ever played around with the card, it's a very fun card to use. Constantly switching out your Tapu Kokos, denying prizes. So it's definitely been a fun deck, and it's one that I'm not quite done with. I want to see if we can make something happen with it, and kind of taking advantage of the fact that Garbodor really isn't that popular in the format at the time of filming, at least. So in the past, Garbodor has been kind of tricky for Tapu Koko to deal with since it is insanely ability reliant. Garbodor also can be a little bit tricky at times, so Tapu Koko, like I said, it's just kind of had an awkward place in the metagame, but you know what, like I said, we're building this list to try to ensure that Garbodor can't knock us out in one hit, and to, kind of capitalize on the fact that Garbodor isn't very popular. So let's take a look at this Tapu Koko list and see what we can make happen with it. So, of course, the main attacker of the deck is going to be for Tapu Koko GX. So 170 hit point, basic, GX, pretty average, nothing special there. Has no weakness, which is actually great because a lot of lightning weak Pokemon are traditionally weak to fighting, which is a somewhat popular type at the time of filming. You have things like Buzzwole running around and Lycanroc and Gallade. So the fact that Tapu Koko doesn't have a weakness is actually huge for this card. So let's take a look at this guy. Has the ability Arrow Trail. Whenever you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, for your turn, you may move any number of lightning energy from your other Pokemon to this Pokemon, and if you do, switch this Pokemon with your active. So this is awesome because, if you have something stuck in the active spot, you can just bench Tapu Koko and already have a fresh one powered up and ready to go. So ideally, we're going to try to deny our opponent prize cards and basically force them to two-shot us, and every time they attack into us and don't knock us out, we just bench another Tapu Koko and basically suck all the energy off of the damaged one onto the fresh one. So Tapu Koko has an amazing ability. Its attack, Sky High Claws for 2 lightning, and the colorless does 130, which, you're not really knocking much out in one hit. You do knock out Greninjas, which is actually kind of good that this does 130 instead of 120, just as an example. But yeah, so it's a solid little two-shotting attack. We're kind of aiming to win the two-shot war, and like I said, we two-hit knock out everything else. So if we can just stay alive long enough, we can just win the game doing that. So a decent little first attack. And its GX move, Tapu Thunder GX, for 2 lightning and a colorless, does 50 damage times the amount of energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. So this is good against a number of decks in the format, like Volcanion, for example. Also good against Garbodor GX, one of the best decks in the format. So it's pretty nice because if your opponent has 5 energy in play, you hit for 250, which knocks out basically everything in the format. So definitely a super good GX move to make use of. But let's take a look at the rest of Tapu Koko's support that it has. So we're playing 1 copy of Jolteon EX. This is going to be mainly for our Volcanion matchup, just because Volcanion in most cases can probably one-shot us, whereas we have to two-shot them. Yes, we can take a one-hit knockout with Tapu Thunder GX, but generally speaking, Volcanion trades kind of well with our Tapu Koko. So if we can get out Jolteon and use this Flash Ray attack, we can actually just kind of clean up the rest of the match just that way. So Flash Ray for a lightning and 2 colorless does 70 damage, which isn't too much, but you do prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from basic Pokemon on your opponent's next turn. So in the case of Volcanion, for example, they traditionally just run basic Pokemon. The Ho-Oh Salazzle deck does run Salazzle GX, but against the standard Volcanion version, which seems to be more popular currently, Jolteon definitely very good and can just shut them out of the whole game. So pretty nice. Also has 0 retreat cost, which is great because this deck really doesn't have a great Guzma target, like a good target to promote once you play Guzma. So if you have a Jolteon on the bench, it's great because you'll always be able to retreat out of the Guzma, whenever you're forced to promote a new Pokemon. So mainly for our Volcanion matchup, but like I said, also a good Guzma target as well. We're playing 1 Xurkitree GX. This is another cool card that recently came out. around the time of Crimson Invasion. I think kind of helps this deck a little bit. Unfortunately, Xurkitree and Jolteon are both weak to fighting, which is unfortunate compared to Tapu Koko, but Xurkitree in particular helps out in a couple matchups. So it has this ability, Flashing Head, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon that have any special energy attached to them. So this is pretty big because there's several decks in the current format that are very special energy heavy. So some decks in particular, like Gliscod, just as an example, depending on the variant, will play, even up to maybe half of their energy being special energy. Garbodor GX also, of course, runs double colorless energy. Savali runs double colorless energy. So, Decidueye Zoroark runs special energy. So just a lot of decks currently that are popular, very reliant on special energy. And if you can time Xurkitree correctly, then you can potentially have a good wall for a while. So it still has some other decent attacks. It has Rumbling Wires for 2 lightning and a colorless, does 100 damage, and discard the top card of your opponent's deck. So especially if you are going against one of these decks that has special energy based attackers, it's kind of cool because you're kind of this awkward wall for them to attack into, and you can kind of mill them at the same time with your attack. So half decent move. And it also has an alternate GX move that you can make use of. Has Lightning GX for just a single lightning energy. Your opponent reveals their hand, add a card you find there to their prize cards face down. So this is actually a really good GX move, especially against certain decks that really don't have a lot of energy on the field at a time. So like in the case of Decidueye Zoroark as an example, it's kind of a deck that typically might only have like 3 energy in play at a time, maybe like a grass energy and a double colorless. So a lot of times it's really awkward for Tapu Koko to even take a big knockout with Tapu Thunder, since Decidueyes have 240 hit points. Zoroark also has 210, so that means you'll need either 5 energy to knock out a Zoroark or 4 energy in play and a choice band. So sometimes you can't even make use of Tapu Thunder, so Lightning GX is a better move in this case. Also good against things like Greninja, which usually have like 1 energy on the field at max, so just gives you another good GX move to potentially make use of in certain matchups. So that's how we're playing this guy. And we're playing 1 copy of a Oranguru just to help us dig through our deck a little bit better. Has that instructability, once during your turn before you attack, you may draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. So especially if we take prizes kind of quickly with Tapu Koko, it's not too uncommon to have a turn 2 Sky High Claws to maybe start taking knockouts on low HP basics as early as turn 2. Your opponent might punish you with an end to try to slow you down, and Oranguru can help you draw out of those types of situations. And also there are certain turns where you really just have to dig for one more piece of the puzzle to make a combo happen, and Oranguru can help with that sometimes. Also has a half decent attack, I guess. So Psychic for 3 colorless to 60 plus 20 more for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So this will give us a way to get around things like the Baby Alolan Ninetales or the Hoopa from Shining Legends if we have to, but we're mainly just playing it for the ability. And then we're playing 3 copies of Tapu Lele GX, of course, for that Wonder Tag ability to search out supporters out of our deck. Energy Drive is, of course, also an option. We play Max Elixir in the deck, so we can power up a Lele pretty quickly if we choose to. So that's it for the Pokemon line. It's pretty straightforward, and actually just in general, this whole deck is pretty streamlined, not a whole lot of text, really just maxing out everything we need just for optimal consistency. So let's head over to the supporters. We're playing, of course, 4 Sycamore, 4 N, pretty standard. 3 Guzma just to choose what we want to take knockouts on. We're playing 2 copies of Acerola, so put one of your Pokemon that has any damage counters on it and all cards attached to it into your hand. So this is one way we are going to try to recycle our Tapu Koko GX. So, if one of our opponents attack it into our Tapu Koko, don't knock it out. We bench a fresh one, taking all the energy off of it and have a fresh attacker, and we can Acerola up the damaged one and reuse its ability on the following turn as well. But then the interesting card and the supporters is 1 copy of Pokemon Fan Club. So search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon, reveal them, and put them into your hand. So sometimes there's some turns where literally all you need is a Tapu Koko GX, and that's it. So your opponent might be like kind of damaged, and you just need that one last Koko to use Arrow Trail to come in and clean up and knock out. So Fan Club is kind of useful in these situations. Also kind of good on turn 1. You can grab something like an Oranguru and maybe a Koko as well. So Fan Club in particular is really nice because it actually puts the Pokemon into your hand as opposed to Bridget, which puts them on your bench. Fan Club also allows us to get Jolteon EX, whereas Bridget would force you to only get Jolteon and nothing else if you did want to go that route. So it's kind of like our Pokemon search support that we're going to play. However, if you guys were really stressing for space to find, fit in something else that you were passionate about, feel free to cut this. But, I kind of like the option to have a guaranteed Tapu Koko in the right spot. So going on to the rest of the trainer cards, for Ultra Ball, pretty standard. For Max Elixir, so this will let us look at the top 6 cards of our deck, attach a basic energy we find there to a basic on our bench, so just to help get energy in play even quicker. And one thing that's nice is that you don't even need Tapu Koko GX on your bench whenever you play Max Elixir. So you can even just Max Elixir to kind of like pointless things like Oranguru and Tapu Lele. And then whenever you're ready, you can play Tapu Koko GX to take those energy from those Pokemon and become your active. So Max Elixir definitely very, very strong here. We are playing some recovery options, so we are playing 1 copy of Super Odd. I typically enjoy at least 1 Super Odd in these Max Elixir based decks. So shuffle 3 of any combination of Pokemon and basic energy cards from your discard pile into your deck. So like I said, I enjoy this whenever we play Max Elixir because that will increase our odds of actually our Max Elixirs working, especially if we're forced to Sycamore maybe 2 or 3 energy away early on or something like that. We can shuffle them back in. But, so we, of course, get back our Pokemon too. And then we are also playing 1 copy of Rescue Stretcher just to get the flexibility of getting a Pokemon from our discard pile into our hand. So we have Tapu Lele and Tapu Koko GX both have strong coming into play abilities. So the flexibility with Rescue Stretcher to just put them back into our hand and play them down to get use of their abilities is very, very strong. And of course, we do have the option to shuffle them back into our deck, but we're playing this over the second Super Rod just because of the first effect that Rescue Stretcher gives you. 2 copies of Field Blower to discard your opponent's stadiums and tools. So this is mainly going to be to get rid of choice bands. That's going to be the big one because we are trying to force our opponent to 2-shot us, and if they have choice band in play, that means they are going to be 1 step closer to potentially knocking us out in 1 hit. Also good against Garbodor. Like I said earlier, luckily Garbodor hasn't been too popular at the time of filming, so hopefully you won't have to use this on float stones and things like that. Hopefully you just have to use it in your other matchups that are more favorable. Playing 4 copies of Super Scoop Up. So, I was thinking, hey, Garbodor's not very popular, so you know what? Who cares? We're going to play 4 Scoop Up. We're just not going to run into Trash Avalanche, ideally. So instead of playing, more copies of Aceroll, we're playing a whopping 4 copies of Scoop Up because you flip a coin. If heads, put one of your Pokemon all cards attached to it into your hand. So this is actually a lot better than Aceroll actually in a lot of situations. Yes, it is a coin flip, but it's great because you can actually Super Scoop Up and still play a different supporter for turn. That's really important, especially if you have something like a Tapu Lele GX on your bench. You can Super Scoop Up, pick it up back into your hand, then play the Lele back down all in the same turn. So whenever Super Scoop Up works, this is much more effective than Acerola. So, like I said, we're not really worried about Garb right now. So let's max this thing out. Who cares? We're playing tons of items in this list. So if you don't like Super Scoop Up for whatever reason, feel free to maybe cut these for an extra copy of Acerola and maybe some other stuff. But you know what, like I said, we're trying to capitalize on the fact that Garbodor isn't too popular right now. So Super Scoop Up just makes a lot of sense right now, I think. So we're also playing 4 copies of Aether Paradise Conservation Area. It's that stadium card. It reduces damage by 30 to basic grass and lightning Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's. So this is one way we're going to tank hits with our Tapu Kokos. So Tapu Koko has 170 hit points by default, so this essentially buffs it to 200 if your opponent wants to take a 1-hit knockout. So we're playing 4 copies of that, and we are also playing 4 copies of Fighting Fury Belt. So the base Pokemon this card is attached to does 40 more, gets 40 more hit points and does 10 more damage to your opponent's active. So we could play something like Choice Band, but then our Tapu Kokos hit for 160, which honestly doesn't really get you anywhere. Most basic GXs have at least 170 hit points, so the Choice Band really doesn't do much for your math in terms of taking 2-hit knockouts versus 1-hit knockouts. So Fighting Fury Belt is definitely superior, in this format, especially since we get the extra 40 hit points. So between the Aether Paradise Conservation Area and Fighting Fury Belt, you basically have a 240 hit point basic, and that's really hard for a lot of decks to deal with. So, you know, we're maxing out Fury Belt, maxing out Aether Paradise. We are determined to win the two-shot war. If your opponent is not knocking you out, then they are going to, you know, in one hit, they're going to have a hard time between all the scoop ups, ace rolls, and all that stuff. And then we're also playing, of course, 12 copies of Lightning Energy just to ensure that we have a decent amount to get decent odds of hitting them off of our max elixirs. That's going to be the important thing. So yeah, guys, this is going to be a pretty streamlined version of Tapu Koko. You know, not really too many bells and whistles, just kind of trying to take advantage of the fact that Garb isn't very popular. So like I said, playing the heavy scoop up count, playing the super heavy count of fighting Fury Belt, etc. But yeah, guys, let's head over to the battle portion of the video and we'll show you how this deck looks in action. Alright guys, so it looks like we have ourselves a game here, and our opponent's going to call the coin flip, which we lose, which is, you know, a little bit unfortunate, but, well, actually this hand is kind of workable. If we can actually hit 2 elixirs and the lightning energy all in the same turn, then this hand actually isn't too bad. So our opponent has some sort of fire deck box, so maybe we're playing its Volcanion, but our opponent has Talonflame. Okay, so maybe this is like Talonflame Break. That would be my next, I guess, best guess. So that's interesting. So Talonflame, if you guys are unfamiliar with it, has that Gale Wings ability. If it's in your opening hand, you can put it as your active Pokemon, even though it's a stage 2. So our opponent's going to go for a Lele. So let's see what they're going to grab here. Maybe a Bridget. Okay, so they are going to go for Bridget. So right now I'm assuming this is like Talonflame Break or something. We'll just have to wait and see. So opponent's going to play Bridget. Let's see what they're going to get here. Maybe a Fletchling or 2 if they are playing that. But okay, so they're playing Salandit, Remoraid, and Turtonator. So this looks kind of like Volcanion, but with Talonflame. Alright, so okay, so this hand's actually pretty decent. So what we can do here is we can do Wonder Tag, grab ourselves a supporter. So I'm thinking probably a Sycamore. That seems good. I'm kind of bummed that our opponent is playing the Salazzle, because that kind of tells me we can't just go like our lone Jolteon strategy against this deck. So here we hit the first max elixir. Do we hit the second one? Yes. Okay, cool. So we're going to hit that one. Then we can attach the other energy, and now we can use Aero Trail with Tapu Koko and immediately have a fresh attacker with 3 energy powered up all in one turn. And here we can just Sycamore. We do have to get rid of Acerola, which is a little bit of a pain, but no, it's worth it. Unfortunately, this hand is not that great, but luckily we have some super scoop ups. We can maybe use those next turn if we need to. Here we're going to do 260 to this Talonflame and take the first knockout of the game. So I actually kind of hope our opponent ends us here if they have one, just because, you know, we have a pretty big hand, but just not a whole lot that we can really play down. We do have the end, so even if our opponent doesn't end us, we do have a draw supporter. Here our opponent's going to go for an Ultra Ball, getting rid of Salazzle, which is actually pretty good. Salazzle could be a pain for us to deal with. So if we don't have to deal with those, I'm happy. Since Salazzle doesn't require much energy to attack, that means we can't abuse Tapu Thunder. Also means we can't wall against it with Jolteon. So anyway, so here we can get down a Lightning Energy for turn. I'm just trying to think what we want to do here. You know what? Actually, what I might do, let's see. I don't think our opponent played a supporter that turn, so here, let's go for the scoop ups. Okay, so we get heads. This is pretty big. So what I can do now is I can actually bench this Lele, and we can actually go for a Guzma play on this Octillery. So if our opponent didn't really play a supporter or do much last turn, you know, we can just pull up this Octillery, and then we can attach an energy and retreat back into our Tapu Koko to take a knockout. However, I am tempted to just get the first hit on this Turtonator, because I'm assuming once we knock out this Octillery, our opponent is going to Shell Trap us, which is a very annoying attack for us to deal with. But you know what? If it means we can leave our opponent with kind of a dead hand, then I think knocking out the Octillery is going to be the better play here. And we do get Acerola, which is pretty good. We have an Ultra Ball in hand, so we can actually kind of make do with this hand for a few turns. Here, so our opponent's going to get down a Choice Band, and they have an end. That is a little bit of a pain, but you know, it's okay. We're going to get 4 cards, and we actually get some pretty decent 4 cards. We have another Tapu Koko, we have a Fighting Fury Belt, Professor Sycamore. Circuitry, I don't know how useful it is in this matchup. I feel like Tapu Thunder GX is generally the better attack in this matchup. So here our opponent is going to go for a Shell Trap, and we top deck a second Fighting Fury Belt. So, you know, it's not a horrible top deck, I guess, but... So, yeah, we bench Tapu Koko. I'm just trying to think... I mean, we can attach the Fury Belt to the active, but... Okay, so if we attack into Shell Trap, we take 8 damage counters no matter what. Doesn't matter which Tapu Koko, which basically sets our opponent up to use Bright Flame to finish us off next turn. So what I'm thinking I might do is just bench Tapu Koko. I'm not going to use Arrow Trail. I'm going to put the Fighting Fury Belt on the benched one, and since we get knocked out either way, I feel like we just, I feel like we actually attach to Lele here. Just because even with the Fury Belt, the active gets knocked out, so we may as well keep a different target on our bench safe. So here we can Max Elixir, you know, starting to power up this fresh Koko, because, you know, this active Tapu Koko GX is most likely going to be knocked out. So here what we can do is we can do Sky High Claws, doing 130 damage to this Turtonator. We are going to take 80 in return, but right now we are kind of winning the two-shot war. Even if we get knocked out here, they're going to go down to 4 prizes, but we're going to go down to 2 after this next turn. So I'm feeling pretty good about the spot that we're in here. And our opponent has a Volcanion and a Tapu Lele, so I'm curious what we're going to see here. I'm just going to assume probably an N would be a decent play from our opponent. That or a Sycamore are fine. Okay, so we're going to see a Professor Sycamore from our opponent. And actually, you know what? We might be in some trouble. So here, our opponent's going to get down a Choice Band and a Burning Energy. Okay, so they have Field Blower. That's actually kind of what I was worried about, because now our opponent can actually, since they got rid of our Aether Paradise conservation area, they can actually just steam up and knock us out with another Shell Trap, which is so annoying. So basically, well, I'm trying to think, because our opponent doesn't have any other attackers lined up, but basically what I'm worried is they're going to knock us out with a Shell Trap. And they have Professor's Lair, so yeah, I assume they'd have the Fire Energy here. If they knock us out with Shell Trap, this next Tapu Koko is going to take 80 damage, which means they can potentially knock us out afterwards. And that would eliminate all of our energy from play, which would be really bad, so... what do we do, what do we do? So I guess we just promote the active. I'm tempted to go for like an Ultra Ball for like a Guzma play, but I feel like it's too good just to knock out their only attacker that has any energy at all. So we have Aether Paradise, and what I'm probably going to do here is Ultra Ball. We're going to go down to 2 prizes turns. I'm going to get rid of Fan Club and an N, and actually grab a Rangaroo, because after we go down to 2 prizes, if we get N, we're going to be in some bad shape. So here, let's do that. And let's just go for the end. We could have used a Rangaroo to draw 1, but I prefer to do that after we get our new hand if possible. Okay, so here we can get down a Lightning Energy. We have to attach it to the active. And we can use Field Blower. So I'm just trying to play down some extra cards out of my hand here just to use a Rangaroo. I want to try to actually Max Elixir this turn if possible as well. So here we'll use Super Odd. We can get back Tapu Koko and a couple of energy. And here we can do Instruct. So we can't make use of any of those, so I might just save this Super Scoop Up for next turn to potentially pick up a Lele. And so here we're going to do 130 damage, knocking out this Turtonator, taking 2 prizes, and we get a Field Blower and a Guzma, both actually pretty good cards. As long as we don't get knocked out this turn, I actually feel pretty good about the spot that we're going to be in. Okay, so our opponent's just going to promote a Salandit, so that actually kind of tells me that we are not in any danger of being knocked out this turn, so I am pretty happy about, you know, kind of where we're at right now. You know, something that could be bad. Okay, they are going to go for the Guzma after all, so yet again, I'm fine with this. I was kind of worried if our opponent had like an attachment, double Max Elixir on Lele, that could have been bad as well. So here what we can do is, I definitely want to get down another energy for a turn, so we can use Arrow Trail with a different Tapu Koko at some point. And what do? We can just Super Scoop up this Rangaroo, but I honestly think what I might do here is we can Guzma up this Volcanion on the bench. It has a massive 3 retreat cost, so more than likely they are not going to have what they need. They only have a 2-card hand. They don't have a Rangaroo or Octillery in play. So, you know, here I'm just double checking what Salazzle does, I think it will be taking a knockout on us. Well, no, we have the Aether Paradise in place. So actually, I think we're probably safe there. So what I might do here is, yeah, I'll just hang on to the Field Blower. I was thinking about trying to play down my hand a little bit more, but here I'm just going to do 130 damage and kind of just force our opponent to have the switching card. And here we see the victory screen, so our opponent did not have a way to retreat, so Tapu Koko is going to take this first game against Volcanion. So that's definitely pretty good. You know, this was a little bit of a different Volcanion version. They played kind of everything. They played Talonflame, Salazzle, Turtonator, but nevertheless we will take the win. So here, let's try another game out. Looks like our opponent is going to choose who gets to go first. So we're not having the best luck with these coin flips, but you know, if it means we can win like we did last game, I don't mind too much going second, especially since we had like the first turn arrow trail. And here, this hand is kind of annoying. Yeah, we have an Ultra Ball, but we have a lot of stuff I just really don't want to get rid of. I don't want to bench a Tapu Koko this early when we don't have energy in play. So maybe, who knows, maybe we'll get lucky and our opponent will bail us out. But here we're playing against actually a Garbodor variant and a fighting one at that. So, okay, I'm just trying to think. So this is Crabominable. Crabominable has 140 hit points. So the one good thing we do have going for us is that with a Fury Belt, Tapu Koko actually knocks out Crabominable in one hit. But Garbodor is such a pain for this deck. Both of them. The Trash Lanch one really punishes us for how item heavy this particular build is, and also the Garbotoxin one shuts down our Tapu Kokos from using Arrow Trail, which is kind of like the heart and soul of the deck. So our opponent's going to get a turn 1 Bridget, definitely good for them. And you know, let's see what else they're going to do. They're going to get down a Rainbow Energy on the Trubbish, so I'm actually happy about that. I'd probably prefer the Trash Lanch one to come into play before the Garbotoxin one, so if they are trying to power up a Trash Lanch Garbodor, I'm going to be okay with that. And I don't know what else they can do if they have like a Float Stone or a Stadium, but okay, they're just going to pass for us. And here we get a Fan Club, so okay, so I actually kind of have a little bit of a plan here. What we can do is we can play Fan Club, and what I'm going to do here actually is grab Xurkitree GX. So Crabominable is, you know, a 1 energy attacker, same with Garbodor, so we're not going to really get a chance to use Tapu Thunder GX in this game. So Xurkitree's Lightning GX is definitely the preferred GX move. So what we can do here is bench Xurkitree, get down the Lightning Energy, and use Super Scoop Up on the active. And we hit Tail, so that's a little bit unfortunate, but okay, so here what I'm thinking about doing is maybe attaching a Fury Belt, kind of baiting our opponent to wasting a Field Blower early on before we get Aether Paradise in play. That's kind of like my game plan right here. And then we can save this Tapu Lele to use next turn. Granted, it is a little bit risky in case they do decide to go the Garbotoxin route, but they are going to go for the Trash Lanch one. Like I said, I felt confident that's what they were doing since they had the Rainbow Energy attached to it. And here, opponent's just going to end, so I'm actually fine with this. We don't have to bench a Lele just yet. We didn't have to play an Ultra Ball for anything else. And here we actually have a pretty solid hand, so I'm definitely happy to see this. We have a Field Blower. I really hope they get a Float Stone down on this other Trubbish, though. That way we can get kind of like the, you know, the best use out of this Field Blower as possible, because we ideally want to use those to, you know, get rid of the Garbotoxin's Float Stone. Okay, so our opponent's going to get down a Fighting Energy, which is kind of a pain because they are going to take a knockout here. But we have Xurkitree, which is actually a pretty good Pokemon in this matchup, as long as they don't get the Garbotoxin Garbodor out, which would really hurt Xurkitree. So right now he's a good wall, but what I might do here is, yeah, we'll bench the Tapu Koko. We're not going to use its ability. And here what we can do is we can Max Elixir. Alright, so we have 1 energy. We'll play the other one, and we hit a 2nd energy, so this is nice. We're actually getting a bunch of energy in play. And what I'll do here is actually attach to this Tapu Koko. And here we'll use Field Blower, getting rid of our opponent's Float Stone. I wish it was one that was on Trubbish, but you know, we'll make the best of what we have to work with. So what do we do here? That is the question. And so we could just Ultra Ball for another Tapu Koko, but that would add an extra item. Well, yeah, maybe that's what we should do here, but we're going to go for the Super Scoop Up. I guess that's fine too. It'll keep an extra Fury Belt from being Field Blowered, so that's okay. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use Sky High Claws, taking a knockout on this Crabominable. We're not really in any danger of being knocked out. Garbodor can, I think, hit us for like 100, 120, something like that, but we're really not in any danger of being knocked out this turn. So let's see what route our opponent is going to go this turn. You know, if we can get one more turn without... they have the Garbotoxin. Do they have the Float Stone? That's going to be the big thing here. That's what I'm worried about. We can have one more turn where we can get one more Tapu Koko into play after Trash Lance hits us. We're going to be in a fantastic spot. Our opponent's going for a Lele, so I'm not optimistic. You know, between a Lele and a Rangaroo, I would assume our opponent's going to hit a Tool card to activate Garbotoxin, but I could be wrong. So let's see what they're going to go for here. So they're going to go for an N. Okay. That's slightly disappointing. I kind of liked our hand, but you know, it's not the end of the world. Here our opponent is going to get a Choice Band down. Okay, that's not Float Stone. I'm happy to see that. And here they're going to go for the N. And okay, so I mean, we have some options this turn. But do they have Float Stone? That's going to be the big thing. And here they do not. So this is actually super big for us, because now what we can do is we can play Guzma, bring up that that Garbodor. So it is unfortunate we aren't going to be able to take out an attacker, but it's going to be crucial that we have access to our abilities for the rest of this game. So what we're going to do now is switch all of this energy over to this Tapu Koko. And so let's see, our opponent's hitting us for 100. So, 120 with, if they Field Blower, the Fury Belt. And if they have a choice, yeah, I don't really want to play any more tools right now. So here we're just going to take the knockout. I think that's the safest play. And so, okay, so we're going to go down to 4 prizes. Our opponent's going to swing on us, but luckily we don't have weakness to fighting. So Crabominables are really not going to ever knock us out in one hit, which means hopefully we can just keep recycling all of these. But here they have a Guzma to pick off this Tapu Koko. Luckily for us, we do have an N to punish our opponent for taking this 2-prize knockout. But, so they are going to kind of jump ahead, but luckily for us, I mean, we one-shot their Trash Range Garbodor. You know, it's easy for us to keep streaming a Tapu Koko to attack every turn, but they have to get a stage 1 into play every turn. So, you know, it's close, but I feel like we're in a good spot, especially if we can hit an Ace Roller or a Super Scoop Up at some point to heal a damaged Pokemon. We'll be okay. So here I'm thinking about, yeah, let's bench the Xurkitree. It could potentially be a good Pokemon in this matchup. So here we're going to do the Rescue Stretcher, getting the Rangaroo back into our hand, because we're going to go down to 3 prizes after this turn. I want to make sure we can draw out of it if we have to. So here we're going to end. And okay, so nothing else too special here. And one thing I'm thinking about is we could Ultra Ball, trying to go for like a Fury Belt or something, but or like an Aether Paradise. So it's a little greedy, but you know, our opponent doesn't have another Trash Range Garbodor set up yet, so let's see what we can make happen. So we're going to Ultra Ball that stuff away. And we haven't played an Aether Paradise yet, so I feel like we can draw into one. But we don't. So unfortunately that is a little bad. A little bit of a risky play, but you know, I'm feeling good because our opponent would have actually needed a Choice Band to knock us out with another Trash Lance after playing the Ultra Ball, but they have a Float Stone on this Trubbish. So that kind of tells me they are not going to be able to take the knockout. And here they are going to retreat in the Crabominable and just hit us with Gutsy Hammer for 100 damage. But I'm cool with this, and ooh, okay. So we have a couple more options. So we can definitely use... Okay, well I was thinking, well, we could Ace or Roll Up, but then we're going to be 10 damage short of taking a knockout on this Crabominable. So I think we might just need to go for the Sycamore this turn. And... okay, do we have any energy? Yeah, we do have 1 energy, so I guess we can... Yeah, let's go for it. Let's put the Super Rod, or we'll use Super Rod, get Koko and Energy back to deck, and here we can just Sycamore. And if our opponent goes the Trash Lance route, I'm actually fine with that because we are discarding some items, but I'd prefer them to get that into play as opposed to the Garbotoxin. And here what we can do is we can attach this Fury Belt to the active Koko. And let's see, 20, 40, 60, 120, 40, 60, 80. Okay, so I don't want to play this Max Elixir. I don't want to do that because our opponent will do 200 with Trash Lance, and I don't want to basically set them up to be able to, you know, maybe pull off some shenanigans to knock us out. So I'm just going to hold on to the Max Elixir for now. And we do hit Aether Paradise, which is really good. Hopefully our opponent does not get a Field Blower. That would be really big for them as well. So here they're going to get rid of, it looks like, a Rainbow Energy and Strong Energy, grabbing the Trash Lance Garbodor. I am fine with this. As long as they don't hit a Field Blower, I think we're going to be good. So they're going to attach to the active, and they're going to do Instruct. So what do they hit here? It's going to be pretty big. Okay, so get down another Trubbish, and honestly, even if they knock us out, I feel half decent about the spot that we're in, because we can still take a knockout on them with our Xurkitree or a different Tapu Koko, and it might be hard for them to set up yet another attacker. But here they are just going to do 108 damage. One thing we do have to be careful about is that a Field Blower will take a knockout on our own Pokemon, so I think what we're going to do here is definitely put down the Aether Paradise, and okay, so what do we do? I mean, I feel like we definitely put down a fresh Tapu Koko and probably just attach to Xurkitree. That seems pretty good. That kind of keeps the most amount of energy in play as possible. And I'm just trying to think, do we play the Max Elixir? I feel like we almost don't need to at this point because we have plenty of energy in play, and it would just add to Trash Lance at this point if our opponent is able to set up another one. One thing I really want though is a Fighting Fury Belt, so what I might do here is just play N. It will refresh our opponent's hand, but they have a Rangaroo in play either way, so they could still get 3 cards even if I didn't end them. And here, let's Instruct. Hopefully we can get a Fighting Fury Belt. That's going to be huge, and we whiff it. A little unfortunate, but you know, I still think we're in an okay spot. Our opponent doesn't have another attacker ready to go, and you know, I think we're just a Guzma away from winning this game at this point. So our opponent's going to get down a Crabrawler, playing a Special Charge. You know, I think whiffing the knockout last turn was really big, but one thing that could be bad is if they're able to Field Blower our Fighting Fury Belt, taking a knockout on the bench Tapu Koko and taking a knockout on the active with a Trash Lance, that would be huge here. So our opponent's going to Special Charge again. Do they hit an attacker? That is going to be the big thing. They also need an energy still. But here looks like they're just attaching to the bench Crabrawler, which means they don't have it, so they're just going to retreat into Lele and try to wall us for a turn. But luckily for us, we have Ultra Ball, and I think we still have some Guzma left in the deck. And okay, so here what we can do is we can just play the Ultra Ball. Trying to think if it matters too much. Just going to double check. Yeah, we've only played 1 Guzma, so we definitely have at least 1 in the deck. We're going to Ultra Ball away Koko and Jolteon, grabbing Lele, and yes, we do have Guzma left. So what we can do here, we can bench Lele, dig this Guzma out of the deck, and pick off one of our opponent's bench Pokemon. We can go for the Trubbish, Crabrawler, doesn't really matter too much. So let's go for the Trubbish, and here we can use Rumbling Wires to take the final knockout of the game here. So Crabrawler, or I'm sorry, Tapu Koko managed to beat Garbodor, Crabrawler here. Garbodor variants typically aren't in your favor with Tapu Koko, but hey, we managed to pull this one off. I won't complain. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this look at Tapu Koko GX. Definitely, I think, an underrated card in the current format. I'm still not sure if your Gardevoir matchup is good enough to where this deck can maybe win a regionals or something like that, but I definitely think this is a much better card than most people are giving it credit for. You can you definitely have a shot at winning games against a lot of different decks that are currently in the format, in my experience. And also too, over on our Patreon slash Rare Candy TCG, our stage 2 patrons and higher have access to a brief article detailing some other techs that you could run in Tapu Koko to maybe have a better chance in the format as well. So if you want to learn how to access that and more by supporting our channel, I will have a link in the description. And also, if you guys could pick up something from our online store at rarecandytcg.com, it'd be greatly appreciated. But with that, I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you for the next one.